Hello, this is
No, ok,
my
pareceu.
VOD review of your gameplay that you submitted to me. Thank you so much for submitting the VOD. So I've done this a few times, and I've done this for a few divas. So I can help you climb. Looks like you're around a bronze level player, which is pretty good rank. Looks like you're almost in silver. You only need a few hundred SR to get there. So I've already watched your gameplay, and I'm just gonna iterate some of my thoughts that I had while first watching and see if I see anything differently. Okay, so right now your comp, you're the only tank right now. So first thing I want to sort of talk to you about is the idea of team roles. And I'm sure you understand roles as in like tanking and damage and healing. But within those three, there's different roles. There's different subsets. So Roadhog, okay, you get another tank, which is good. But you have Roadhog and a D.Va. And neither of those are usually main tanks. Usually both of those are off tanks. Usually you have a shield tank, or you have like a Winston, and then you have a D.Va or a Roadhog. But this is fine. This is totally fine, but usually that's how it is. So see, they have a Reinhardt. I don't know if they have a second tank, but they have a main tank. So if D.Va is being played when you don't have another main tank, namely Winston, Reinhardt, or Orisa, then it's your role to be the main tank. And if you're the main tank, then what you usually have to do is you need to block damage for your team, which is good because you have a defense matrix to do that, and you need to be leading your team. So basically, you're going to have most objective time. You're going to be doing that type of stuff. D.Va is really good at diving right now. If she has support, like if a Tracer and a D.Va dive together, then they can take out most enemies. But that's not really your job if you're the main tank. What you're doing right now is totally fine. Totally what you're supposed to be doing. This is great. Right, so you're going to cap the point with pretty much ease. See, now right here is not really what you're supposed to be doing. You should just stick up a payload. You took 100 damage from the Zenyatta, and you took about 60 damage from the Winston. Like, that damage wasn't needed for you to take. You didn't need to take that damage. And then you took like another 100 damage. You didn't really need to take all that damage. You could have just sat behind the payload, used the payload as a shield, and just pushed the payload. It's a pretty good ult. Unfortunately, you didn't see the other D.Va ulting because you were focused on your own ult, but that's okay. A 3-for-1 trade is pretty good. That was a pretty good ult because you realized that they were all clumped together, and you ulted right here at the corner, and so they didn't have any ready place to run away. Well, they did, but it's hard to find some of the pockets in this map. Okay, so here you sort of ran away from the Reaper, but you could have just defense matrixed his damage and kept with your team. Now right here, after the fight's done, when there's no one else to help the Zen, you can just dive him. When there's no one to punish you, you can just dive. But if your team could be hurt by the Reaper, for instance, like if that Reaper could have killed your whole team, so that you should have stayed and defended against the Reaper. But that Zen couldn't have killed your whole team, so you could have just gone and killed him. Okay, push the payload. Nice, these little stragglers are easy targets for you. Nice. Okay, so you wouldn't want to dive the Zen here.
What do you play?
Sleigh bells.
You wouldn't want to dive the Zen there because they had a Reaper, they had a Winston,
The most
and then you would have died.
gets us all together.
So basically during team fights like this, you want to just be using your defense matrix to protect your team from big damage. Don't just protect from little damage. Like if D.Va is shooting at your team, don't use your defense matrix to block that. Use that to block like a Reaper ult.
Yes, sir.
You get a pretty good block later in this game, which I was really happy to see.
Thank you.
Nice, looks like you're winning this fight. Spoilers, they respawn and they take the point back from you, but that's okay. You're doing a good job. So in this sort of cleanup phase, okay, I'll finish my thought later, but that was pretty good. If you wanted to ult there, then I would have just sat on top of the payload and ulted and not flown up or anything. You can just set your payload or set your ult down, and that would have been just fine because the Winston wasn't there to bubble it. You can fly it up into the air if the Winston is there to bubble it, but if the Winston isn't there, then you can just sit it on the payload. And then unfortunately you try to challenge the Reaper ult, which you should never do unless you have a defense matrix.
Why am I just rushing in? I need to let people...
A little bit of lag there. This is fine. Like your whole team's dying together. That's okay. Luckily they don't chase you and you can get away. It's a good thing of you to break line of sight with them before meching.
Good idea. I think we should try to pull them a little bit. Like,
Okay, good. You're grouping up.
I feel like he says, yeah, there he is. We need to get some ults. Thank you. Wow.
Okay, so right here, this right here isn't really necessary for your team. You're not really doing anything here. What you could have done is just gone around with your team, just around the bend there, and led your team. But instead you took like 600 unnecessary damage. Okay, so he's ulted on point. You should go to the point to get heals.
I think they ulted as well.
But instead you get rocket barrage. That's okay. You got a minute and a half. Yeah, they're using a lot of ults and they wasted a few of them. Like they wasted that Reaper ult, Death Blossom, that's what it's called. Yeah, they kind of wasted D.Va Vod there too, huh? It's kind of funny though. Oh, nice, nice. Just dive that D.Va. See, the fight hadn't broken out yet, so it's okay to dive. What did I say, D.Va? I meant Farah. You know what I mean. Okay, good. You're leading the fight. You're with the team. You're killing low health targets. Good, good, good. Everyone was dead, so you didn't need to ult there. But that's okay. Nice. Dive that Farah. What you could have used your ult for is you could have used your ult right here to stop anyone who's coming back from spawn. But totally fine. Oh, and a quick little tip. I'm not sure if your recording software is forcing you to do this right here or whatever. Like, or maybe this is just a video. Okay, it looks like this is just a video actually. Okay. Wait, actually no. If you're recording this right now, and you are, like I see in the top left corner here, it says Overwatch beneath your recording software stuff. So what you could do is you could go into Overwatch settings, and you can go to video, and then you can press full screen. And I think that that'll get rid of your bar below here, and it'll get rid of the top thing. It won't be in windowed view anymore. And for me at least, the game runs better when it's in full screen.
Like when she jumps, I'm pretty sure like she has hydraulics in her legs, and like it makes it look like she.
Okay, for defense here, looks like you've got an Orisa. So your playstyle can be different. You're no longer the main tank. You're the off tank now.
Yeah, jump. Ready?
So as off tank, you're not like a DPS, but you can do a little more damage. You can be a little more divey. You can be a little more dynamic. You don't need to sit still.
Oh, where are you, Bastion?
So the smart way to
How do I get
hold this, if you're running a Bastion, is right here.
Right here.
Right on top of that.
Come up on
You don't need to be on this bridge here.
Oh,
Oh
I
no,
got up.
I fell.
You just set a Rissa right here, put a Bastion right there.
Yeah.
Let's get that shield up for back.
Because the high ground is
I really failed.
really advantageous.
Alright, I won't get up there.
But you're running the spawn camp strat right now. That's fine. It's pretty good.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so
Alright.
right there, let's rewind it just a little bit.
Oh,
It's like now then.
yeah.
Let's talk about what you're doing.
Shield up for back.
Okay, so
I really tried.
doing a little bit of damage. Their Winston just gets shredded. Their Pharah's getting shredded by your soldier and your Bastion.
I'm going.
You go and dive. But then this Reaper just destroys two of your players. What you could have been doing is you could have just sat with your team and defense matrixed everything that Reaper is doing.
Already, I'm gonna switch.
You don't really need to dive unless the target's really low health and there's no other way that your team could kill that person. Like, you have a Bastion to do most of your damage. So you can just rely on your Bastion to do the damage, and then you can just soak up damage from the enemy team's flankers.
I'm with you now.
Okay, did a little 360 there. Okay, good. Jump that Pharah.
Hey guys.
Make sure you jump that Pharah only when there's not a Reaper to take away or to kill your team.
Take up the Farah. Do you have anything to take a Farah? Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of things I could be critiquing you with, but I'm just going to focus on the important things. This right here, I was so happy when I saw you do this. You saw this Reaper Wraith forming in the middle of your team, and in lower ranks, this means that the Reaper has an ult, almost 100% of the time. Especially if the Reaper gets 2 kills right off the bat, and then he's just doing some damage. Like, he's built his ult by now. If you have your ult by now, he should have his ult by now. And if he's Wraith forming into your team, it is your job with the defense matrix to just cancel this ult. And you do this beautifully here.
Alright, you guys back up.
You read a million years into the future. You didn't need to ult there, but that's totally fine because you performed your role.
Sorry guys.
Luckily, the
Left you in the dust.
Mercy finishes off the Reaper for you there because you would have been in trouble otherwise, but that was beautiful. I was so happy when I saw you do that.
Alright, D.va's backing up. Winston.
Nice, defense matrix that ult. That's one of D.va's best abilities, defense matrix. Well, it is her best ability because you can cancel ultimates with it. And nice, you realize
Sorry, Zen.
that you can't defense matrix the D.va bomb, so you just kill the baby D.va when she tries to get away. That is super smart. You're doing a great job here.
Could have gotten around.
And since they don't have any real damage right here, you just go up and kill this Pharah. One little tip while you're trying to attack this Pharah would be to make sure that you shoot while
Could have gotten around.
you were. Maybe you could use your missiles while you're flying. The missiles probably would have done just a little bit more damage and you would have been able to finish her off. Because once you come out here, you start taking a lot of damage really fast. So if you had finished off this Pharah a little earlier, you wouldn't have needed to take all this damage and you could have just defense matrixed. But that's just a little nitpick.
Why did I do that?
Nice there. Mercy messes up and doesn't fly away immediately.
Alright.
Great job, you guys.
Or Farah, soldier, help us out.
So Leia, it looks like you guys are stomping this team. Usually when you're stomping a team, Like you didn't really need to, you just kind of wasted that ability, but that's okay. Like when you're stomping a team, like you don't really need to worry about that type of stuff. Like you can just sort of do random stuff and you kind of just win. Greater shatter by your Rhine. Nice. Oh, you tried to finish off that Pharah, but you had a good idea.
Winston behind.
That would have been the right
Oh,
play.
there's a Winston here.
So you have your ult. I would just sit on the payload in the last seconds of the game and just use my ult there. Because there's not really a chance that, like, if you have 47 seconds left, there's not really a chance that you can build another ult if you use it right now. So just hold on to it.
Maybe D.va behind.
You end up getting these 2 kills, but that's not guaranteed value. That was really good for your team, but like you would have guaranteed that they wouldn't have been able to push anymore if you had just sat on the point. But you're stomping this team, your Bastion's doing really well. This is fine. Nice, that Pharah's not really doing much. Nice, you're just sitting on the payload. Smart.
Yes. Let's go. Oh, was there?
Winston on point.
Alright, just finished off their team and you win.
Where?
Winston.
So you did a great job this game. If you play like this, then you will definitely climb to silver in no time. If you have any future games where you don't feel like you're having as much success, then feel free to just send me that VOD too, and I can critique you a little more, because sometimes when you're stomping a team, like your mistakes don't really get punished, and then you don't really understand what you need to do better. But you did really well this game, and thank you so much for sending this VOD. If you have any specific questions, feel free to message me on Reddit, or you can just comment on this YouTube video that I'll post. So, awesome. Great job.